Okay, let's look at your worksheet, and now you can have your memo page out if you'd like. And I'm just gonna slowly work through all, I think 15 of these problems before we go further, okay? Just so that you really know what I'm doing and what you need to do. And some people can logically move faster through this. Some people, you'll have all the normal time for a test, okay? Of which you cannot bring your memo page in, but almost every test that I give during this time, I see once I pass out the test, people write their name and then write their charts at the top of the test, okay?
I have a question.
So also, the first page of most of your tests coming up would be non-calculator. Because I don't want you just punching in cosine of 150, okay? Question?
Yes, could we write the memo page like on a blank sheet of paper so that we don't have to keep flipping? Like if we had like scrap piece.
That hasn't been an issue in the past, but, so I think,
I might do both.
because it's usually just the first page that you need it for. So, but, I'm not gonna say no to that, I'm just gonna have to make sure because of this. There's so many, interesting ways to, I don't think you would ever cheat, but I think I told you all my cheating story that's now being recorded.
No, wait, what's the cheating story?
It's so scary when you do something wrong and then you realize, oh my gosh, if I did it and I'm the biggest goody in the world, then everybody's capable of doing it. I cheated in the 8th grade, not just cheated, I cheated on a Bible test. And so, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what kind of horrible person does that? But my friend Helen went by when I was filling in something from the Old Testament, and I don't think she knew I was cheating, because she was the type of friend that would call me out on it and go, well, I'm not going to tell you that, and I'm going to tell the teacher. But,
ditch her.
No, in a great way.
Bye-bye.
No. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, but you want friends that hold you accountable. You want friends that make you a better person. You do. I always wanted my children to get caught in high school because you learn great lessons. All I learned from that, other than feeling guilty, is I kind of probably learned I could get away with it. Because I got away with it. But obviously it still haunts me today. I didn't, but I did years later when I cheated on the pledge test in my sorority in college. We were all sitting real close together and we were having to write all of the actives, like the girls older than us, like Anya, why did I pick her, because I can say her last name, but anyway. Then I had to say what city or state they were from, they made us learn all this stuff, which was good.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there on top of each other, and I can't remember where so-and-so was from, and when you see someone's paper, and all of a sudden you see the answer, but you don't know if you would have thought about it yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's just sort of game over, so I copied it down, this is where Anya's from. Handed it in.
Thanks.
About a couple of days later that night, it was just eating me alive, and I thought they're going to kick me out of sorority because I cheated on this test. So it's far better to be honest than to risk gain based on dishonesty, whether you're embezzling money or cheating on a test or whatever. And so I went and told Sissy Baskin, who was our pledge trainer, I'm like, I got to tell you, can we go over in the corner and let me, tell you what I did? And I'm like, I cheated on the pledge test. She died out laughing. She goes, everybody does. So, next. At least I did it, at least I told her and I felt better about it. But anyway, having said all of that, I'm super goody. And so, people have cheated on my test that I would never have dreamed in a million years.
In Marymount?
At Marymount and during my career. You sound shocked that people cheat.
I'm married now?
I know so many people who
I
cheat
know.
at me.
I see them
And
look at
so
my
many
paper,
times,
and
and then I try to I don't even know. People
Just
try to
like
I
my
don't
just
even
go
know
like
anywhere
this,
else
go like
to do
this.
anything
The
anymore.
worst thing though is if you're taking the test or a test and then sometimes you hurt your eyes or you look up and
whenever
you
I
make
don't
eye
know
contact
it-
with the teacher
Teacher,
and
and
then whenever I don't know
I go like this.
it's so scary.
So anyway,
I would
after
always
that-
make eye contact with Miss Genter by accident. She'd be
After
like,
that long story that I just confessed cheating on the Bible test on QuickTime, and my Bible teacher may come hunt me down after all this time. By the way, your sins will find you out if they're great sins. Like some people think they've gotten away with embezzlement or cheating or whatever. It catches you later. All that aside, there was one time, I can't remember who it was, but they had going to use a piece of scratch paper for their memo quiz. And I had big classes in my other schools I taught at. But I noticed they were kind of a few rows back, and they were doing something funny with their paper. It was just kind of weird the way they were moving their pencil, and I walked back. They had put their memo page beforehand on top of a stack of paper, and they had pressed down really hard with their pencil and removed their memo page, and they had that piece of paper with like braille on it basically. And so they kind of read something, they were kind of shading it so that, or holding it the different angle, and I'm just like, what have you done? What have you done?
How long do you think it took them to make that plan?
Yeah.
You're like,
And
wow,
you could have
I
would rather
read?
fail on your
study.
own merit or
Yes.
study than like have
Yes.
to like braille during a
Oh my
test.
Okay, so anyway, I got other
It feels
stories.
like-
Well, let's move on so we can get some good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at number 1. Dakota, what was number 1?
1/2.
Oh, I'm sorry, what
Oh,
was the
wait,
question?
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
Sine of 150.
Okay, and you were right. All right, sine of 150. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go 150 degrees. You'll run into 150 so much, you'll think that's 30 degrees away from 180. Big
did that.
lesson, remember the butterfly bow tie. Have I done that with y'all?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're always going to the x-axis. So this is a 30-degree reference angle, in which case you have your memo page out during homework. You just look at sine of 30, which is 1/2, but you never pull it out of there without checking the sign. So then I go all students, okay, sign is positive, and I move on. All right? Julia, what's number 2, the question?
Cosine 180.
Cosine of 180. All right, I explained to you, like, I think one day when I was teaching you the IOU chart, how I do it. Like at 180, I know that the cosine of 180, like I can see my x-coordinate would be the same as the radius of the circle, but most of y'all probably looked at your IOU chart until you memorize it. You should eventually know cosine of 180 is -1. Everybody get that?
Yes.
And y'all see how sine of 180, if I asked it, would be 0? Because sine, there is no y component. Okay. All right, Nazareth, what's the third one?
Tan of 360.
Tan of 390?
Sorry.
Tan of 390. Okay, so tan of 390, 30-degree reference angle. Tangent of 30 is square root of 3 over 3. All of them are positive in the first quadrant. This should be a bit aggravating because you worked so hard, but I just want to make sure I do this. Number 4, Alina, what's 4?
Tan of 120.
All right, are y'all okay if I could just go ahead and, like normally you would draw it? It would be fine if I take up your test and I see you've done that if the board was oriented and it says 60-degree reference angle. Tangent of 60 is root 3. And I'm in the second quadrant where all students, so that's what you were asking me, Alex, I think. I know that sine is positive right here. That means by default, cosine and tangent are negative. All right, so number 5, Alex, what's number 5?
Cot.
Cotangent?
Cotangent -240.
Negative 240. Now, girls, I don't remember right now. I think the answer to this ends up being negative, but
Yeah.
a negative angle doesn't mean you're going to have a negative answer. A negative angle just tells you which direction to spin. Okay? So I'm going to spin negative 240, which is not that far, sorry. All right, negative 240, this is negative 180, so I spun about like that. And I get a 60-degree reference angle. Is everybody okay with that? The difference in 180 and 240. All right, Ava?
So use the original, I know like for positives, use the original angle to decide whether it's in the sine, cotangent, all, or the, what's the last one?
Wherever you
Wherever
land,
it
you
is.
still use that
So
A.
even though if it's negative, you still use that, like you wouldn't
Yes,
add 360
it's
and
still
then be positive.
ASTC, no matter which direction you spin the wheel.
Yeah, but like, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, somebody.
Even though it's negative, right, like you still
That just
use
means you're going to go
something.
the other direction, but
Yeah.
if you
So
still
you still
land in the
use-
second quadrant,
Okay,
any way, shape, or form,
Okay.
this always holds true.
okay,
Is that
yeah,
what you were asking? Yeah.
yes.
It's just like a spinning on a game
Yeah.
thing, okay?
Mhm.
So great question. So this holds true, no matter, you just landed here one way or the other, okay? All right, now, let me continue on. Now, this is one takes more thought. A couple of y'all I sat down to work this one with. I'm like, I'm going backwards. I gotta get my reference angle. I've gotta look up tangent. I've gotta figure out the sine. Then I gotta remember to flip it over. So there's a lot going on in this problem, okay? So I look up the tangent of 60 in my 1, 2, 3 chart, and it's root 3. I flip it over, let's get our sign right now. All students, and so tangent is negative, and then I flip it over. And you would have to rationalize it for delta math. Negative root 3 over 3 if you were doing delta math.
Okay.
My watch is telling me to breathe. I'm gonna go, I'm breathing. Okay. So now let's go to number 6. Is that where we are?
Yep.
All right, Ava, what's 6?
Secant 300.
All right, so another one that's gonna take some time. Secant of 300. All right, that's a 60-degree reference angle in the 4th quadrant. And so I'm gonna look up, the reciprocal of secant is cosine. So I'm gonna look up cosine of 60, which is 1/2. All students take calculus, so it's positive, and then I'll flip it over. Did some of y'all get 2?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mia, what's number 7?
Wait, I thought, isn't it
Oh.
is it positive 2 or negative 2?
Positive.
I'm confused.
It's in the 4th quadrant where cosine is positive.
Oh, so it doesn't matter if it's C, okay. So I thought that since it was secant, so like,
That's just the
Was it- yeah.
reciprocal.
oh, so,
Just flip it over.
You do it whatever.
Reciprocal,
Oh,
3/4 is 4/3.
okay.
Okay, so I just sign on the sign before I flip it over because I might forget to do it later. All right, Mia, what's the next one?
Cosecant of negative 60.
Negative 60. All right, so Mia, I'm sorry, Ava, this is back to your question. So now I'm going negative 60. It doesn't matter which direction I go, and now I've landed in the 4th quadrant. Okay, where all students take calculus. All right, cosecant is a reciprocal of sine. So I'm gonna take a minute and find the sine of negative 60, then I'm gonna flip it over. Sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. You can always make some notes to yourself. In the 4th quadrant, cosine's positive, therefore sine is negative. And now let's flip it over. In your delta math, you would have had to rationalize that to negative 2 root 3 over 3. You don't have to for me. All right, so Kate, what's next?
CSC is negative 60.
All right, so let me move this little kitten because part of the board's better.
We just did that one, yeah.
Oh,
Wait, never mind. CSC of 570.
all right, so C as cosecant of 570?
Yeah.
All right, so you had to do a lot to this one that Kate and I actually talked about earlier. You have to find coterminal and reference angle. All right, those are 2 words that used on the first trig assignment I ever gave you. So first of all, I would subtract 360 from it. I've gone 360, and what's left? 210. So I've still got to go 210 more, which takes me to right there. So it's coterminal with 210, but my reference angle is 30. Okay? So my reference angle is 30. I'm going to look up sine of a 30-degree angle, and I get 1/2. All students take. What is sine in the 3rd quadrant? Negative, and then you flip it over because it's cosecant. There's a lot going on in that problem. All right, I don't know who I can call on. So we'll start. Have I called on everybody?
No.
I know. What's the next one?
10 and 480.
Same kind of thing happening here. 480, if I subtract off a rotation, I believe it leaves me 120,
Yes.
which gives me a 60-degree reference angle, if that could draw over there. Tangent of 60 is square root of 3. I never pull something out of the 1 through 3 chart without stopping by this chart in addition. So it was tangent all students, so it's negative. Oh, by the way, you may see some of Miss Arcan's student that also in pre-cal and or in trig. They've got that big unit circle that I'll
I
show
hate
you at some
Is that
point.
with the pie stuff?
Well, you'll get that. But I mean, as far as the unit circle, we base everything on the first quadrant because it repeats itself over and over again. But they have to actually know 120. I'll show you a unit circle, okay? And we don't do that, but lots of you could. Say you study with Miss Arcan student, or you looked it up online on Khan Academy, or your tutor does it. I'm not gonna make you do it this way. I'm just gonna, I know both ways, and I'm gonna teach you what I think is by far the easiest way. I really don't know why some teachers will come along with that, but I'm the only math teacher at Marymount that does this simple little charts. Everybody else has this big unit circle. So don't get in an argument about it. They won't even know you're not using the unit circle. Obviously, it's all the same thing. It's just how you approach it, okay? So, you know, some people get all upset. They just think unit circle's like the Bible, and you'll find people who get really, oh, how can you even do it without the unit circle? So anyway, I'm streamlining it for you. All right, Dakota, what's next?
What is that number?
It was 10 or 480. I've lost count.
It was, okay, so then now it's tan of 315.
All right, that was a 45-degree reference angle in the fourth quadrant. Tangent of a 45-degree angle is 1. Okay, and all students take calculus. So do you have -1?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Nazareth, what's the next one?
Sine of 135.
Okay. Oh, where? Okay.
That's her little sister.
It looks just like her. Okay. Sine of 135.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a 45-degree reference angle. Do y'all see what I mean? Like I've done it so much. Obviously, I've done it forever, longer than you've been alive. But you're also probably starting to notice some of them, like 210s is 30-degree reference angle. The 315s and 135s and 225s are 45-degree reference angle. Sine of a 45-degree angle is root 2 over 2. And this one's positive because 135's right there. All students. All right, Alina, the next one?
Cos of -225.
Okay, that's a 45-degree reference angle. I'm going to go -225, so I'm spinning this way. I'll land 45 degrees away from -180. And so I got root 2 over 2. And all students, sine is positive, so what's cosine? Negative. Okay, is that okay? All right, Ava, what's the next one?
Cosine 210, or yes,
210?
cosine 210, yes.
All right, again, I think some people know that's a 30-degree reference angle. You see the same numbers over and over again. So I'm going to go to 210. It's a 30-degree reference angle. You still probably have to look up cosine of 30, which is square root of 3 over 2. All students take, so it's negative. All right, what number are we on so far? How are we close now?
We're at 14.
14
more
is the
left.
All right, Kate, what's 14?
Sine of -270.
All right, sine of -270. What is that coterminal with, anybody?
90.
90, excellent. So if Kate goes -270, she's coterminal with 90.
Yeah.
And so you just look up sine of 90, which is 1. Nazareth?
Yes. Because when we did the first assignment of delta math, it had us find the negative, when it gave us like a negative number, it had us like find the coterminal. Is it okay when we have the negative to like just add 360 to find the coterminal?
That's fine. Yeah, and if it's working for you and you see, yeah. I mean, I'm probably technically doing that. I'm finding the difference between 360 and -270, but if you see the whole rotation, okay? All right, Anya, what's the last one?
Sine of 315.
Sine of 315, that's a 45-degree reference angle. So a square root of 2 over 2. Move a little bit faster on this one. 315's in the fourth quadrant, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, so all students take calculus. Sine would be negative. Root 2 over, seems like y'all are doing great. Okay?
Is C the fourth one or is S the fourth one? C's the fourth one?
All students take calculus.
Oh,
C's the fourth one. Cosine's positive in that quadrant.
okay.
Okay?
I keep going backwards.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, now, I'd say just put your pencil down unless you're doodling, which I do too, so you can doodle while you listen. It helps me a ton. Mr. Hill and I actually happened to talk about that this morning. My dad was a banker. When I would go visit him, I'd see by his phone, like all this doodling that he was doing while he was talking to clients. But that helps me think, so you can keep doing that. But what I was saying is don't copy down what I'm doing, because this is not how we do it in our class. If you like what I put all over the board in just a minute, this big explosion, go for it. Yeah, okay? So it's up to you, but I want to show you, and I think that you'll realize that you know it better and you know it faster, or I wouldn't have switched. I told y'all I learned on the unit circle, and I taught my first 2 years on the unit circle. The only thing that would make me switch is if it's better, okay? Because I'm real stubborn. Question before I go on. Did you have your hand up, Ava?
Yeah. So wait. So we don't. You're just showing us to show us, not.
I'm just showing it to show you because a lot of you will be in, next year you'll be in calculus and you'll be studying with people that they pull out their unit circle and you pull out your memo page, and I just don't want it to freak you out. I just want you to be well versed in what a lot of people are doing, okay?
Yeah.
All right, so you're just watching. This is just for your viewing pleasure, okay? So what happens is all the other teachers at our school and many schools divide this whole thing all 360 degrees. And I'll tell you a few reasons why I'm not a fan, okay? That I used to be a fan. So if I divide this up into 6 equal parts, just the top half, this is 180. And so do y'all agree that this would be 30?
Yeah.
This is 0. 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, and 180. If I continue on this venture,
Gahan Academy did that.
then I have,
This is on the internet when I was like, during the first homework assignment, when I was
Yeah.
confused on the one that we did.
This is why I'm doing
Yeah.
it, just so you'll have seen it. 300, 330, thank you, then 360's coterminal. All right, then inside here are 45-degree reference angles. Okay, so if you just focus on the red, this is 180. So the girls, look, this is 90, and so this one by reasoning would be 45, right? So if I count through the red ones, this is 45. The next move is 90. That makes sense, it's already labeled. The next move is 135. 135 plus 45 is 180, that's already labeled. Moving down here, if I add 45, that's 225. Add 45 to 225, you get 270. And add 45, you get 315. Add 45, you get 360. Those are the most common angles you can run into, 30, 60, 90, okay? So what you notice here is all of these yellow ones have a 30-degree reference angle. See that bow tie? All of the red ones have a 45-degree reference angle. And all of these green ones that are now green, do you see all of those have a 60-degree reference angle? And then outside of those, they write sine and cosine and sometimes tangent. It depends on the memo page. Some people write it in a different order, like, do y'all remember how I told you cosine is more with X and sine is more like Y? Let's talk about that for a minute. Over here, if that was actually touching the origin like it's supposed to be, isn't this an X coordinate, a Y coordinate, and the radius? So do you see how cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse? So a lot of people write cosine before sine, which also confuses me because I'm used to sine before cosine. But they write all of these numbers up here, like this. The cosine of 30 is square root of 3 over 2, and I'm writing it cosine sine, because that's what maybe your friends have.
They memorize this or they just have unit circle?
Hang on, let me finish. So all of this comes from those 30, 60, 90 ratios that I made you practice on before we started trig. Some people don't write it in this order. Some people write it sine cosine. I'm writing it cosine sine. This one is 1 0. No, wait, hang on. Wow, cosine is 0 1. Okay. This one now over here of 120, the cosine would be negative 1/2, and the sine would be square root of 3 over 2. Right here, the cosine would be negative root 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. Right here, this cosine would be negative square root of 3 over 2, positive 1/2. Because to get there, you would have gone back and up, is the reasoning. This would be negative 1 0. Right here, 210 would be negative square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2, because you're in the third quadrant where your x and y components are negative. Are y'all tired of this yet? They got
Yes.
really tired. So this is what they do. If they do 210, they look at their memo page until they memorize it, and they go, theirs might be cosine sine, And so the sine of 210 is negative 1/2. What y'all do is you base it on the 30-degree reference angle. And you do it from there, and then you got all students take calculus. Here's what I do with y'all that I love about the charts once I gave it a chance. All you've got to know is what's happening in the first quadrant. It's all you have to know, and then merge it with all students take calculus, and it takes care of all of the rest of it. Okay? Then they throw the radian, the pi stuff on there that we still haven't done. Okay? So I also am not a fan because I'm not sure. I know I used to be able to do it because I learned on the unit circle and taught on the unit circle. But negative 120 is not up there. And they all have to find the sine and cosine and tangent of angles that I've given you, like negative 315. So they have to spin around and fight with the coterminal and all of that stuff. Here you don't care which way. With the charts, you don't care where you spin, where you land, where you spin, where you land, because you've got the all students take calculus. All those numbers in the first quadrant just keep repeating themselves over and over again. So I can't believe that I ever used to do that, actually. And lots of people I've already seen, probably every other math student, pre-cal and above, if they haven't had me, they're walking around with the unit circle. I will say some of my students occasionally like it better. I don't care. You don't even have to tell me what you're doing, okay? It won't hurt my feelings. I'll really worry about your sanity, but it won't hurt my feelings. All right, so here is a unit circle. Did I even put it on here? Here it is. Okay, and this is really not the unit circle because it doesn't even have all that. They also have to have all the fractions like square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2 on it. So you can look at your friends and see. But you don't, girls, you don't need those 3 quadrants labeled on something for you because you're basing it all on reference angles. Okay?
It just looks horrible to look
Oh,
at.
and then you add the radians to it that we're about to get into, and then you add all the fractions. I don't even know why I didn't pull up one that was a bigger mass.
You know what would be problematic for me if I did this? If we were drawing it and then I messed up a line and then I'd have to erase it.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to read
I
the
would be
whole
like a
thing.
perfect like.
Same, I'd be
Okay.
the person with the ruler like.
I'd also so forget a single line and then my entire circle would be off.
Okay, so I like what we do better. All right, now, so I have 4 minutes. So I'm going to start in on what a radian is, and we won't finish today. So the good news is your homework will be, just something that continues you through the degrees until you know what radians are. So just let me talk for 4 minutes about this, and you can just listen. You don't, no reason to take notes right now, so you can keep doing it. Okay, so you know how we all grew up in the United States, and some of you may not have grown up in the States, but we grew, those of us that grew up in the United States, we measure things in feet and inches and yards and miles. Other people, as in the rest of the world, use it. That's so American. They use the metric system. And so if I ask my classes, especially in Memphis, I had very diverse classes from all over the world. And if I would say, I held up a pencil or a pen, and I'd go, how long is this? Just as a test, and the class started answering kind of in one voice, my United States raised students would go 5 inches or whatever you think it is. But what would they say? Centimeters. Yeah. Whereas if you ask me how many centimeters this is, after all the years I've taught math, I still am not very good at it. But they're not very good at inches. Don't they think in centimeters and convert to inches? I think in inches and convert to centimeters. Which one's far better? Centimeters. And also you can go from centimeters to meters to millimeters. You can travel back and forth a whole lot better than you can from feet to inches to yards, okay? So that's better. It's a better system. So there's another way to measure angles. There's radians and there's degrees. I don't know why nobody's ever told you radians before, but they have, and you just didn't know it. Probably not today, but at the next class, you'll see. Are you kidding me? Like I've been doing radians all along. You'll be shocked when you see it. You'll go, no way, all right? So here's something super weird that happens. Let me show you this little video. Back to topics. Before I do that, probably also something important. is as you get ready for tests and stuff, you can practice trig values in 2 different places on my website. Do you see how if you want to know like the tangent of 360 degrees, the tangent of, or let's say 240, the tangent of 240 is positive square root of 3. So I just thought it out and I figured it out. And then I can go over here under the tangent. Where's tangent? The third one? So then I can like click on this and it'll show me if I got it right or not. Okay? So you can do your own little interactive quiz. And also you have this. So let me show you where these 2 things are. It's maybe a better use of our time than starting something new. You can practice trig values here. There's also interactive practice problems here. So if you're worried about the quizzes, you can click on this, okay? Interactive practice problems. You can give yourself 10 questions for 3 minutes. And right now all you know is degrees. So do you see I clicked on degrees? And then once I start, the clock will start ticking. But I'm going to do sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent. I can practice them all, okay? So like the tangent of 90 is undefined. What's the reciprocal of that? 0. And do you see it'll keep a tally up here? And now the clock has started ticking if you look at that. And so then, now it already gave me my next problem. Sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2. But you can do this as much as you want, little as you want, and you're in charge. Once I teach you radians,
Which topic is that?
let me show you where these are, and then we'll just stop and I'll post your homework in a little while. It'll be more degrees. We'll get to radians. I think I should just wait. All right, under topics, there's 2 places you can go for this. The interactive practice problems is what I just showed you.
Yeah.
And then, I don't even know why I don't have it all in the same place. I probably should move that to practice trig values. So one's interactive practice problems, one practice trig values. One day I may consolidate those 2. Okay? All right, so next class we'll have a practice memo quiz. And we'll have a quiz on, a real quiz on if you can do that sheet for homework in Delta Math. And I'll open up the Delta Math again to study for the quiz and probably give you some other homework too. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Bye.